We are broadcasting live from the Elephant Hills Resort Hotel in Victoria Falls, and right beside me, we are so much honored as we're just finalizing on the fourth and last day of the ACDE, the African Council for Distance Learning Education. We have the brains, the company that was actually hosting and the voice behind this most successful ACDE as far as it has been held here in Zimbabwe. We are so much honored to be joined by the VC of the Zimbabwe Open University, VC Kurasha. Ma'am, thank you so much for taking your time and joining us for this short interview. Today we've been here for the past 3 days. This is the fourth day. We saw a gathering of many countries. Off my head, I can pick Namibia, I can pick Lesotho, Zambia, international countries that I've forgotten. We saw a convergence of many African and also European countries coming here today for the ACDE. For the benefit of our viewers, ACDE, what is ACDE? What was the purpose of this convergence and what was happening here in Victoria Falls for this 4-day conference?
Thank you very much, my dear. The African Council for Distance Education is the brainchild of African Vice Chancellors of Open and Distance Learning Universities. They came together in 2004 at Edgerton University in Kenya, and they decided to come up with this council, which is meant to bring together all the different views and ideas and methods and techniques that we could think of and we could use in Africa under the umbrella of the council, to say we are institutions that are offering open and distance learning. And the best way we could do that in a harmonized manner is for us to come under one umbrella of the African Council for Distance Education. So it basically is just a gathering of open and distance learning institutions. Open and distance learning, purely open and distance learning, or open and distance learning in the dual mode, which means universities or institutions that offer learning through the conventional face-to-face mode, as well as the open and distance learning mode. So those heads of institutions came together and set up this African Council for Distance Education. We have come here for the fourth African Council for Distance Education Conference and General Assembly. As part of the ACDE culture, we meet after every 3 years. The first time we met at UNISA in Pretoria. Then they met at National Open University of Nigeria in Lagos. Then we met at Open University of Tanzania in Dar es Salaam. And this fourth time, Zimbabwe won the bid, and we met here at the Victoria Falls, and Zimbabwe Open University was hosting. And we came together under the theme of integrating the continent, continental integration through open and distance learning. In other words, we're very concerned to say, how do we bring together the continent of Africa as educationists? How best can we bring the continent of Africa together? And we found that one of the easiest routes would be to educate people. But are we educating these people in their solitary confines in different countries? We said, why would I do that in our institutions? But we can actually look at how we do it collectively as Africa, as institutions in Africa, in the different countries. And let's come up with something standard. For instance, through the ACDE, we have different projects that we run with even directors. We have the technical committee on collaboration, which looks at the collaboration of learning materials, the collaboration of services, the collaboration of research, the collaboration. And we're saying there's a lot that we're doing separately, but if we collaborated, we could get a lot more mileage. So we have that technical committee. And it is housed at the Open University of Tanzania. And the Open University of Tanzania actually funds it. It finances that. Then we have the Quality Assurance Agency and Accreditation Agency that now looks at quality assurance. How do we provide our services. From the learning materials that we do, the teaching, if there's any face-to-face, the marking that is done, the projects that are written, even the delivery of learning materials to the learner, all those things, and the administration of everything, the quality of it must be done in a given way. And that quality delivery is going to be monitored through the quality assurance toolkit which ACDE has developed so that we harmonize and standardize our quality right across the continent. In other words, we'll be using that quality toolkit to say, have you checked and done according to the quality assurance toolkit? If not, then you're off the mark as far as we are concerned as a council. So while in our own countries, we have our own regulatory bodies, like in Zimbabwe, the Zimbabwe Council for Higher Education, they also check for quality and they do accreditation, but they do that for all universities. But as ACDE, we are saying for open and distance learning institutions, this is the way to check for quality in open and distance learning. So there are a lot of things that as a council we've come up with. And again, we have a whole database that's been developed for all open and distance learning institutions, activities, and people and students, etc. And that one is housed at UNISA with a professor in charge of that. Again, UNISA is taking care of that. So the African Council of Distance Education is saying, let's bring together our different resources, scarce as they are, but make the best and the most out of them, because we all can benefit from each other's little bits that we have.
So according to your own understanding, you had some set targets and achievements. Did you manage to reach those ones as far as the conference is concerned?
Oh yes, oh yes. The conference was actually meant to get people to appreciate that integration issue, and there were several sub-themes, 6 sub-themes, which everybody went through in their different groups, and they came and made their presentations on the different topics. We actually had 85 papers that were presented in the different parallel groups, and we had 6 plenary speakers as well as a keynote speaker. And obviously we also were looking forward as the hosting country to have our own government support, which we've really enjoyed a lot of through our own Minister of Higher Tertiary Education, with our own minister coming to be the guest of honor to open. Unfortunately, because of other circumstances beyond their control, she was represented by the permanent secretary, but she personally would have wanted to be here. And in any case, the following day on the Sunday, even after the official opening, she still sent her deputy to make sure that we are covered. So we've really had a lot of support from our ministry. And not just in terms of their presence, but even financially. They funded, for instance, our cocktail and part of the dinner and things like that. They've really been there for us. And they've actually also been in touch with the other ministries to help us get support. So our government, in a big way, has been very supportive. For instance, we had the President's office, which was doing the accreditation. Those beautiful cards that you have here. See, this came from them.
Yes.
And we had that accreditation done world class. And everybody was, wow. We had the Ministry of ICTs and Postal and Courier Services. They even came up through their parastatals and through the ministry. They sent somebody to represent the minister. One of their directors was here. They even sent 1 or 2 members of staff to come and help our technical team. They even got through the parastatals tablets to give. 15 tablets that we give it, just like that. And these we managed to give as tokens of appreciation to people that had performed and presented. They even gave us SIM cards. For every delegate, there was a SIM card in their bag.
Definitely.
You got the SIM cards
too.
You see? And there was a lot of this support and sponsorship in kind. And yet there was also support and sponsorship in cash. Because you had your Nyaranzos, you had your CBZ, a lot of people came in and they supported us to get this thing off the ground. And certainly, take my money.
Yes.
There's another good example of a company that just stepped in and said, we'll cover it for you.
Definitely.
There was so much goodwill all over. And you really become speechless when it comes to trying to express one's gratitude.
Speaking of the goodwill and the good times, congratulations also on the ACDE Presidency that you're taking over Zimbabwe. Maybe a bit on that. What does this really mean to you? What does this really mean to Zimbabwe also?
Thank you very much. At a personal level, of course, as I said when I was reading my acceptance speech, it's a very humbling feeling, a very humbling event, in that the whole of Africa has just decided, well, it's constitutional, yes, but I mean, they could have simply said that it's not good enough. But they really gave a very big vote of confidence in allowing me to take up that role. And obviously that means also a vote of confidence in Zimbabwe, allowing Zimbabwe to take up that role. And the way we hosted and the way we ran the conference, right from the pre-conference workshop on the 4th and the 5th to date, was just so flawless, and everybody was very impressed by the way we did it. And I think they are very confident leaving it in the hands of Zimbabwe is the best decision that we ever made. And what it means for us then as Zimbabwe is we are at the helm of making sure that open and distance learning does go smoothly in Africa. And therefore we have to give the necessary guidance and leadership and support, and also be able to reach out and link with a lot of other organizations that could come in and make education through open and distance learning a reality in Africa.
Okay. Of interest, during your keynote speech and the hours dinner, you mentioned about the scholarship for the President Robert Mugabe scholarship fund for the students. We need to understand more on that. We understand that this is an initiative that you unanimously agreed on as the ACDE, that you're going to be taking care of for the tertiary education for some students. How is it going to be working, and when is this going to be really operational? And probably if you could just give us more details on that.
Yeah, actually, the African Council for Distance Education has always had this, as you can see, this is the 4th conference. But when I put up the bid for Zimbabwe, I then asked them if we could do something differently. And they said, what was that? I said, well, could we have an awards dinner? And they said, awards? Well, I said, yes, we need to recognize individuals and institutions that have played a role in open and distance learning, so that others can emulate them, and also so that the world can see that there is substance in open and distance learning, and certain individuals and organizations do stand up for and support open and distance learning. And the board was very much in agreement. And then we said, while we have certain institutions that have promoted ODL and specifically supported ACDE, we also have individuals that have done the same. But we also have some individuals that have just been shining stars when it came to literal learning through ODL and achieving and attaining degrees through ODL. We had a discussion, and when behold, President Robert Mugabe, His Excellency, was the most learned across Africa using the ODL mode. And the whole board agreed that we need to award him this special award of the Distinguished ODL Scholar and Promoter of the Century.
Wow.
You must have seen how radiant I got. I was so excited. And knowing him and the way he has brought us all and conscientized us all to be very educational oriented and to love and to cherish education. As you can see, it's almost a culture in Zimbabwe. If I were to ask any one of you here who is not studying, you'd find very few people. Everybody is studying one thing or the other.
True, and we have 92% literacy.
Yes, with our 92% literacy, now it was 98. The lifelong learning culture in Zimbabwe, we're getting it from our leadership.
That's true.
And for Africa to recognize that, I just thought that was it. And so, at the latest board meeting that we held, when we were discussing now in terms of the award, what is it that we're going to give for the award? Well, we shared with the board the trophy that we prepared for His Excellency. So, wow, that's a lovely idea. But then I went further and said, gentlemen, I was very like the only lady. I said, guys, beyond this trophy, which we'll give and somebody can take home and see and dust left, right, and center, we need a legacy.
Definitely.
To continue in terms of open and distance learning. What if we came up with a scholarship? And everybody was, wow, that's a brilliant one. Because then that will carry on, then the legacy continues of open and distance learning. Yeah. And I remember one of the board members suggesting the name already.
Wow.
Then I'm coming, ACDE scholarship. And then he goes, yeah, that's the name. Okay, so how is it going to work? Well, we have to raise the funds. And somebody goes, yeah, raising funds is one route, but we can actually get it started now before we even raise funds by every institution pledging to give one student a place in their institution for free under the name of this scholarship.
Wow.
So what this means, ladies and gentlemen, is that in every country in Africa where you have an ACDE member institution, there will be somebody studying under the ACDE scholarship.
Perfect.
And his
how many countries are we talking about here?
In terms of those that were here for the conference, those that attended, we had about 14 countries already.
Wow.
And of course there are more that were not represented. Namibia was not here, and Lesotho was not here, but they have all their institutions, and several others as we go up now. DRC was not here, but you can imagine that if each of those countries has at least one student
at least
studying.
That's a big risk.
And to me, that's just, and they even committed to say, this is to begin with. We have one place. And as time goes on, the places will be increased. And even the funds, everybody in their own station will be looking for funds for this scholarship. But let's get it started even without the funds by registering a student under the name of this scholar. And so it was so exciting. I'm sure you saw last night. I was almost breaking down as I was talking about it, because it's just so personal to me to see His Excellency, my own Chancellor and President, being recognized by all Africa, not just Zimbabwe, by all Africa. And they're genuinely doing it because they know and they recognize that he has worked and he has learned and he has led with that level of discipline and focus which you get only through open and distance learning exposure.
It is surely changed lives.
Oh, it has. Oh, it has. And as you can see, with our president, he is a living example of a lifelong learner. He will just learn and learn some. And if you manage to get a moment,
he inspires us also. We know we can always learn at any time. If he's still learning via open, then we don't need to sit and stop what we're doing. We can be at work and we can always learn and enhance our education.
Remember, as we say in the Zimbabwe Open University, you can earn while you learn.
Interesting. On that point of earning while you learn, I do not know. There's this probably I can say misconception that people would want to look down at open learning. They say that it's not as powerful, it's recognized as the conventional brick and mortar tool learning. What are your sentiments towards that? People rather say, I'd rather have a straight conventional degree than to be educated via these systems. How is the government, how are nations also recognizing qualifications from distance learning vis-a-vis to the conventional brick and mortar learning models?
You are very right about those perceptions. As you rightly said, they're perceptions. And wherever there are perceptions, our responsibility is to make sure that we educate. We're in the business of education. We need to educate people to see the reality and move from perception to reality. And the perceptions are actually a product of our backgrounds and upbringing, whereby and also history, whereby open and distance learning in its very first generational mode, where it was called correspondence, would always be looked at as a mode for those people that could make it. It could have been for that then, but now it's for those that are making it.
Definitely. Because
while you are making it, earning as you're learning, you're also learning and make it from an educational point of view. And in terms of the quality, and it being seen as less valuable or less accredited, then that is not correct, because the regulatory bodies that accredit, for instance, our Zinche in Zimbabwe, has the Zimbabwe Open University programs accredited fully, and it's on the record of accredited institutional programs. And this is true across all over the continent and the world over. Now, further to that, if we come back again to the Zimbabwean example, sorry to get too provincial, if we come back to the Zimbabwean example, you'll find that from as far back as the 90s, you will come across students who learned whether it be at NAST, at UZ, at Rhodes, if I believe the course into South Africa, and they'll tell you, to date, even, they are using Zimbabwe University modules for learning. Okay. And even the lecturers use those modules to teach. And it's not surprising. Why? Because those modules are actually written by the experts in the different areas from the various universities. Okay. So those lecturers write those modules. And therefore, it's the same material that they teach at the conventional that they put in the module, which is now being read by this learner on their own. Right. So when you talk of the material, it's the same. It's the same. Yeah, so it's just a perception
that actually needs to be changed.
And we need to change it, and we need to work on educating people to look at it differently.
Okay, because of time, I would have started with this question. Our time is almost up here, unfortunately. Maybe the last question, education and technology. This is an area of interest to us, probably within the next 2 minutes or less. We also understand that we have heard rumors that ZOU is going to be introducing degree programs soon, and how, probably if that is confirmed or yet, and how is ZOU and ACDE also been working or advancing towards teaching on technological courses? Maybe in 2 minutes or so before we just shut down this very close of time.
Well, the Zimbabwe Open University does have a faculty of ICT and multimedia studies. And yes, within the next few months or year, we will be starting to offer our bachelor's in ICT and master's in ICT. Wow. We've already developed the
materials. It is confirmed.
Yes, we will be offering that. We already have the materials, the manner of teaching it is there, and in fact there will be a lot of different ways of doing it, a high-tech manner compared to what we're doing with the other programs. And that will unfold as we get to it. Looking at ACDE, the African Council for Distance Education is very much working together with other organizations like UNESCO that are trying to bring in, for instance, the issue of the MOOCs, the massive open online courses. And we just had a parallel session yesterday, just after lunch, where UNESCO was addressing vice chancellors and their IT people on the MOOCs issue.
We attended that one.
Yes. Now, as you heard in that, they're trying to say, let's bring MOOCs on board, but contextualized in the African context. And the ACDE is very watchful on that, to make sure that we're not just bringing everything and anything as it comes from wherever it's coming from. We contextualize our stuff. We contextualize it to the African context. And so open and education resources are very rife in Africa. They are used all over, and they are actually been very useful in the research that's been going on. So ACDE promotes technology in open and distance learning.
Okay. Last 10 seconds to our viewers, Professor VC, your last words.
My last words are, you can never stop learning. Please come wherever you are in Africa, wherever you are outside Africa, go to the open and distance learning institution in your neighborhood and learn from there. You don't go and live in the institution. The institution comes to live in your home, and you can learn and develop yourself exactly where you are without having to move to a big city. So please learn, be a lifelong learner using the open and distance learning mode. It is the mode of the moment, and open and distance learning universities are the universities of the moment. I want to thank you.
Live from Victoria Falls at the Elephant Hills Hotel. This is www.technomeg.co.zw. Thank you for watching, and to you, ma'am, thank you so much for giving us this time.
Very much.
Thank you, our viewers. Hope to see you soon.